this off. Hans Comyn, we're live.
No kidding.
Beautiful, beautiful morning this morning. Beautiful sunrise over the ocean. The waves were incredible.
Nobody on the beach.
At least 90% of those waves were surfable, body surfable. Just one after the next, just all the way into the shore.
All the way home.
Incredible. All the way up.
Yeah, it was really magical. I wanted to capture it. I used your video, but that will be not as it was experienced. It was just gorgeous. The water was great. The sun was there. There's next to nobody on the beach. It's amazing to be able to be the only ones to be there at that moment.
So Father's Day fast approaching. What, it's Thursday. It's about 10 more days. 10 days to Father's Day. And Hans, something that I've noticed over the years is that there are so many people, and I could count myself at one of them at times when you feel like, man, I didn't get the right dad, or my father should have been like this, or my father was too much like that. I remember a young woman one time was telling me, she was so angry with her father. This was one of the two feminist girls in Uganda who I spent the night with, not like in the same bed, but they were out of a place to stay, and this
Well, first of all, before you go into the story, I think it's great that there are only two feminists in Uganda.
they were visiting ones. It could be that there's only two, and they were just passing through. But
imagine you're a feminist in Uganda. That's a tough plight.
In Uganda, I think feminists who went to stay with some local Ugandans, and they see how the women treat the men, they would be appalled. They would try to start a revolution in the family.
When they see how the women treat the men?
Yes.
How's that?
And so I go to visit my friend Clovis in Uganda.
Yes.
And
he's Kenyan, no?
He's Ugandan.
Oh, he is Ugandan.
Yeah.
Oh.
They live out in the jungle, in the banana jungle, right? All these banana plants and sugar cane, and they just have like a little hut, a little house out there. It's his parents' house, and they have me go sit down, and Clovis sits beside me, and the father's over here. The men sit, and the women are in the back preparing the food.
Uh-huh.
And when the women come out to serve the drinks or the food, they come and and they bow and they get down on their knees.
Wow. And
they come close with the food on their knees, and they serve it like this, it's like you might see someone serving a monk in Thailand or something like this. But anyway, I wasn't planning on going into all this, but there were these two feminists in I lied. This was in Kenya. I mean, Clovis lives in Uganda, but these two feminists were staying with me in Kenya. Okay. So, man, get all these African countries mixed up.
It's all the same,
And I'm talking with these girls. These were the girls who were like upset that like men still approach women. I'm not talking about catcalling. I'm not talking about harassing. I'm just talking about coming up and saying hello. That's you look really beautiful in that dress or something like this. They feel like it's sexual harassment, and it really needs to be stopped. But the one girl was telling me that she was so angry with her father because her father didn't teach her how to fix a car. Her father didn't teach her how to change the oil in the car. Like he taught her brother, but he didn't teach her And this was a really big source of like pain and judgment for her. And I noticed today, you know, we live in a very different world than 50 years ago or 100 years ago, when so many people are going to a psychologist, when there's so much pop psychology, so many self-help books, and we can read about, you know, how you should parent, how you shouldn't parent, how parents are causing XYZ with their children. You know, it wasn't that long ago when children weren't even supposed to speak up. You know, children are to be seen and not heard. This is a phrase that, at least in America, I think when my mom was growing up, this is the phrase, you know, children are to be seen and not heard. Physical beatings were much more common. This is something that's starting to really be considered physical abuse these days. But there's so many more ways that we can judge our parents now, and it's validated by society. And we can essentially live our lives blaming our parents for fucking us up. And no doubt our parents do fuck us up.
Yes. In
ways that they don't intend, you know. Plenty of ways our parents fuck us up. I mean, I could list the ways. But
well, for sure you could say that it's less than ideal. I mean, that's a given. So if you're going to focus on how they did less than what they could have done, or how they were less perfect than they could have been, then yeah, that's an endless discussion.
Well, it's like the people who look back to a couple hundred years ago and they judge the people who were alive a couple hundred years ago by the standards of today. You know, when life was completely different. We didn't have the same values. We didn't have the same even idea of rights, or just completely different world. And, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, I think I myself never been a parent, obviously, but people who think that, well, yeah, mom or dad, you know, you should have figured out how to parent before you had kids. I don't think most parents know how to parent before they have kids.
You never get any practice, you know.
So.
You're right in the game. It's like you're a football player and you don't have any practice.
Yeah.
Right, Champions League game right now. Boom.
Yes. And there are a lot of, you know, there's a lot of judgment today about fathers who were more masculine, patriarchal, whatever you want to call it. You know, the Gillette video that came out, I think it was last year or the year before.
That was amazing. That was amazing. I really thought it was a joke when I saw it. I thought, what? And then I felt really out of touch that could happen, and I didn't, It's shocking to me. Like,
yeah, it's the video where I remember there's the line of men barbecuing, right? Which is weird in the first place, but they're all barbecuing. And then these two kids are wrestling. They're wrestling in the grass. And I think one of the fathers or two of them come up and they're like, no, it's you shouldn't be doing that. You know?
Yeah, and then there was a guy. There's a beautiful woman passing, and he's about to approach, and the other guy goes, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It seemed so over the top. I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke. Like,
And yeah, there's definitely two sides of it. You know, there's definitely the side of when you are trying to toughen your son up or your younger brothers up or whatever, that for some guys and or the way it's done, it can kind of beat them down, or it can leave them feeling like they don't make it. They don't make it. The idea of the toughen up is that you become tough and you become a stronger man, better able to face other men, better able to deal with life's challenges. I really respond well to that kind of challenge. And I'm glad, to the extent that I had that growing up, I'm glad I had it. You know, my dad, I would go visit my dad in my 20s out in Arizona. And I had a stepmom at that point. And, we'd be at the house, we'd be in the car, we'd be anywhere we were. And my dad would be talking shit to me, And, they just don't make those boys like they used to, Which is a compliment to him and an insult to me in a way, right? And my dad and I we would go at it for like a couple hours on the basketball court, back and forth, like intense competition.
I see where you got your training.
And I went for one semester to the University of Utah, which is the rival of BYU, and my dad went to BYU, so it was always the Utes against the Cougars, and red against blue, and it was an intense rivalry. And my stepmother would constantly be like, Dave, like, don't talk to your son like that, And she had a background in psychology, and and she's female, and I think women in general have a lot less tolerance for this. Like, this isn't their normal way of showing affection and whatever. But I loved that with my dad. I responded 100% well. I gave the shit back to my father. And it was great. I loved it, and as we get on our family calls now, I still give my dad shit, They just don't make those old men like they used to, And but so it's so easy to take these new standards for who men should be, who a father should be, and then use them to judge our fathers. And
just, you could say standards, but imagine, even you speak of knowledge. We've grown on how to parent, because people are putting attention to it. That attention and knowledge was not there 50 years ago.
I remember my mom telling me that she was sharing some nutrition information with her mother, my grandmother, and my grandmother reacted like, I always fed you guys well, like I gave you the best, but the food standards were completely different when my mom was growing up, And my grandmother thought she was doing the absolute best, and then my mom I don't think this is a situation like my mom wasn't even judging her mother, but her mother took it very personally because you're a mother, you try to do the best for your kids, but the standards and the knowledge, everything was completely different.
It would be like judging your grandfather for not raising your father vegan.
Right. Right.
When that was not even a term,
Yeah. So. Yeah. Or judging, maybe you're 50 years old and you're judging your father for not raising you vegan. And your father, like, vegan wasn't even a thing, didn't even exist. It's really unfair. And I think also that it's a really unfair situation that parents have these days, expected to raise a fully developed human in a world where parents are often, both of them are working, both of them are deeply in debt, and they're completely separated from extended family. Like, they're not surrounded by grandparents and uncles. And, as I travel the world and you see really healthy communities, it's not just mother and father against the world. There's a grandmother and a grandfather around, and they're often the ones caring for the young kids while the parents are out working. And there's just much more love, much more connection. I remember going to visit Clovis out in Uganda, out in the jungle, so to speak. And this little boy didn't know his father from his uncles. Like, there were so many men in the family around taking care of the kid that he's got all these men who really care about him like a father. I don't want to say that. And for sure, the Ugandan standard of being a father for sure doesn't meet the Western definitions of being the father. It's much more the old school being the father, where the father isn't around very much. And this is another judgment we can put on our fathers, is to say, you didn't attend all my soccer games. You didn't do this. You weren't around. You were always working. Well, up until 50 years ago, when we really started having a lot more abundance, material abundance, financial abundance, that's mostly what fathers did, was just go out and work. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you know, survival was much more challenging. You know, the men are out providing and protecting. They don't, there's no like, go to the child's soccer game, or, you know, sit around and read stories to the little boy, or, you know, and our fathers probably didn't grow up with that either, from their fathers. So these standards that we put on, that we use to judge, in my opinion, are completely unfair.
So how was your father a great man? How did he raise you well?
Yeah, like we could go into both, right? We could judge our fathers and we can honor our fathers. My dad, I remember my father, he would leave for work around, say, 6 in the morning. So he was probably up at 5, maybe even earlier, to go for his run, to read his scriptures. Very, very, very like conscientious, dedicated, hardworking man. And he'd go to work at the dental office all day. Then he'd come home and he'd go work in his garden. So we always kept a garden, fruit trees and vegetables, and he'd do that for, you know, at least an hour a day. And I remember my memories of him, like just on a work days, you know, he'd take us around on the tractor as he's working. And, we were very work oriented. My mom, we always had work chores to do, you know. My dad would always have us out there in the garden, you know, with him. And in the Mormon church, they really honor that father. They really honor the father and the connection with the father. So there were a lot of father and son outings where it's just fathers and sons. You know, there's something really special about that when the women are not alone. You know, if the mothers and daughters are there, it's a different quality. It's not wrong. It's just different. And unfortunately, I think a lot of young men today, they don't get this kind of connection with just elders and brothers. But in the Mormon church, they also had scouting. You know, that was a big thing. And obviously, that's just men. I think that might be.
What's scouting?
Boy Scouts.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was a big thing. I remember my dad in Cub Scouts, which is the earlier version of scouting when you're like 7, 8, 9 years old. They have this. What I think they call it the Kentucky Derby, or no, there's something Derby. Anyway,
It's a horse race.
Yeah, the Kentucky Derby is, but there's this other Derby with the cars that you make. You get a block of wood. Everyone gets the same standard kit, and then you compete, and they go down like a racetrack, and if you win, you get the prize, whatever. And it was mostly a competition for the fathers, because the kids are that age, they don't really know what the hell they're doing, you know. But I remember my dad, you know, really putting a lot of time and attention into that, and souping it up, and we won. You know, we got first place. That's how my dad was great. You know, that was something, you know, as we honor our fathers, you know, there's also those little things that you remember from when you're a child that are a really great thing to just bring back to them, you know, like they might have forgotten they might have completely forgotten it, but the fact that you remember it it's a great little thing. But by the way, that black race car was like a premonition for that black Firebird that I used to escape. So maybe if it was not for my dad, I never would have escaped in that black Firebird about 10 years later.
I was just thinking of the first story that with my father that comes up. Well, there were several, but one funny was we're going to play a prank on my whole class. which is I was six years old and in class, and I had a sweatpants on, like now, and underneath I had my soccer outfit. So I had sweatpants, and underneath I had shorts. And instigated by my father, who's a troublemaker his whole life. He said, go in class, you know, and say, I'm going to take my pants off. And I did it, of course, because I was very unafraid as a kid. I was very comfortable being me. And I gathered like the whole class around her. I even knew the teacher, and the teacher was like, and I said, I want to take my pants off. You know? And then I take my pants off and I have shorts underneath, you know, and I laugh with the whole class. I'm like, ah! And my father's outside the class, you know, looking through the window.
That's great.
That's the story I remember.
Yeah, you know, my father, he loved being in nature. He would always take us into nature. You know, I'd go to visit my father, and he'd want to go camping and hiking. And I remember this one hike we went on. It was I believe it was a 50-mile overnight hike.
Wow.
Along the C&O Canal. And it's how many kilometers is that? It's quite a ways, right?
Yeah, that's like 90
kilometers. And
that's
so you're out there in the middle, you know, you take off and you're kind of more like a big group. But I remember being out there, I don't know how old I was, maybe I was around 12. And my father, you know, gone ahead. He's competitive, you know, he wants to win, he wants to finish, he wants to do well. And I remember being out there all alone. And I was afraid, and I was alone, and I was like, my dad left me, you know? And I was definitely not happy with him. You know? But in my opinion now is like great, you know? Like you're at that age, you need the challenge. You need to be challenged. Now, yeah, you also need the love. You also need that he gives a fuck about you. Like, that is important. But my opinion is you do need to be challenged.
Well, they're two different things, of course, you know. When I think back of my father and parents, I see much less the format, but I do feel like the love, you know. I feel the complete trust from them in me that I have what it takes. There is no like trying to micromanage, trying to steer it in a certain way. You know, it's really like, yeah, I always felt a trust that whatever I want, you know, is valid and good. And then the format that takes, you know, this was almost inconsequential, you know. We never really, for example, my parents never told me, oh, I love you, or we never do that, you know. And yeah, it would be easy to judge, you say how much better it could be, you know. But anyway, yes.
Yeah, I just want to come back to that one point that we were making earlier about how these days it's expected that the father and mother provide everything that the child needs. There's so many demands on parents these days, and even much more so on men now. Like in this recent 10-20 years, where a lot of women expect the man to also do half of what would traditionally be the mother's role, changing the diapers, the cooking, the cleaning, the taking care of the house. You know, it's in part because women are also working outside the home now. There's this expectation that the men also do half of the housework and the stuff with the kids. And as a young guy growing up these days, you know, you could look back and say you could judge your father for that. You know, that he didn't do enough of that. He left it all to mom, or judgment is so easy. It's so easy to judge and not realize what our parents had to deal with.
I'm sure other people have thought about this, but I just see something that I want to explore in the future. Is that when before there was a more like clear division of roles, which also meant whatever that means in terms of role, but it also means there's the fatherly way of giving love and the motherly way of love. Then now it's like expected to be the same from both.
Right.
And like there is something lost in that. Yes. In relationships. For example, you see the men are more like women and women are more like men, and when they meet there's less polarity. And because there's less polarity, there's also less energy, there's less passion, there's less aliveness. And maybe the same holds for children that are now raised by parents that are way more similar. There's less division of roles, and so less energy, less aliveness, less juxtaposition, so less possibility to
less ability for a little boy to look at his father and distinct from his mother and say, I want to be like that.
Yes.
I want to assume that responsibility. I want to be tough like that. I want to be strong like that. And it's there's definitely something missing, something missed there. The more we all try to be the same, and we. You know, one thing that's great about having a bigger extended family around is the little boy can, if he doesn't feel like he has that, it's perfectly normal to not feel like you're like your father, or to not even like your father. You don't need to like your father, but you might like one of your uncles more. Mm-hmm. You might connect to one of your uncles more, feel like your personality is more like him. You want to be more like him, not like your father. And when you have the uncles around, you don't need to put it all on your father and blame your father. You can just kind of drift more towards one of your uncles or your grandfather or something like that. And I feel like I was fortunate in that way, you know. There are definitely aspects of my personality that are like my father, but there's some that are a lot more like my mother's father, you know, my grandfather, my mom's side, and one of my uncles on my mom's side. And if I don't have that, if I don't have those other potential role models, it could have been a lot more difficult for me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I've told you stories about my grandfather on my mom's side. Like, if I hadn't had that when I was growing up, I don't know who I'd be. I could have suffered a lot more as a boy and as a young man.
Maybe we would have suffered a lot less. Having to live with you.
Yeah, imagine I had become a gentler, kinder human being, you know. Oh, that would have been terrible. Life would have been a lot less fun.
For you.
You know, one of my uncles, the one I'm talking about, he was like, you know, he built $30 million. He was worth $30 million when he passed at the young age of like 50 something. And 55 maybe, but had like 30 businesses by the time he died. But he spent all his time hunting, fishing, and golfing, you know. And he was just kind of a big bear of a man. And when I'd go out to see the relatives, you know, and he'd just come pick me up and grab me and like start chewing on my ear, like, you know, it's like, get off my ear, you know. But that's that's the way I give love, you know. It's very physical and it's kind of in your face and it's too much, and you know. For those listening to the podcast, Hans is motioning towards his ear as if I would get near your disgusting ears. But
what is because you started this call and you wanted to be in defense or stand for the dads. So what is your main point today?
It's just that we have all these ways that we can apply new standards to judge our fathers. Mm-hmm. And being a father is hard enough without, like, imagine you're a father right now, and then 30 years from now, when the idea of men and fathers is completely transformed, and your 30-year-old child comes back and is saying, you know, Dad, you fucked me up.
You should have used space aliens for my education. You never did. What?
Yeah.
There were no space aliens.
Yeah.
Well, you should have researched.
So yeah, it's, you know, very in a lot of ways the dads who are trying to parent today or 50 years ago or 100 years ago, like, it's a challenging world. Life is challenging enough without applying the new standards. And
honoring your father will be good for you either way. You know, honoring your father will be good for him either way.
Yes.
Honoring your father will be good for your relationship with him either way.
So, for your children, for your future generations, the honoring is so vital.
Ask yourself, how could you today honor your father? I think that's a great exercise.
Yeah.
I love to think of how I can do that with my father.
You know, I could look at my dad and say, because I really value being an adventurer, and I could look at my dad and I could, you know, say, well, he just worked all the time and he this and that. But like, my dad taught me hard work. You've seen how I work when I'm working, you know. It's like hard to derail me from like when I'm just, you know. And I got that from my father. And if he hadn't sacrificed all that he did to work so hard, we wouldn't have had the life that we had. We had money when I was growing up.
We didn't have money, but but yeah, when I look at my father, I see he's a rebel his whole life, still is. He still thinks maybe I should move there, you know, and start my life there. And he turned 70 in 1 week, you know. And I got that from him, you know. And I always think, like, what I see is like all the battles that he fought, you know, that I don't have to fight no more. I don't even have to think about them, you know. Yeah. But he fought them, so he slayed those dragons. Yeah. So I don't never have to slay them again. They're dead. They're gone, you know. So I can
That's
attack.
A great point. That's a great point.
I could take it. I can slay other dragons, you know. And yeah, I always when my line of work, and I just grew in time the conviction with how fortunate I've been with my parents, you know, to be raised with the love and the trust, just the trust in me, you know, and not having to be someone else, not trying to please them or school, or, you know, I really felt that always, that they're trusting me and they proud of me, you know, proud of my me being me is very valuable. Yeah, my father's a great man. What a great man.
Yeah, you know, as I think of my father, you know, I could, from a judging perspective, I could say he wasn't an adventurer. He should have been an adventurer or something like this. Mm-hmm. But I can also see how he was an adventurer. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were the only people. Mormon families are big. Everyone in their families lived in Utah and Idaho then. It was my mom and my dad who went out east, you know, and then it was my dad who went on took us to Switzerland for a year for the, I mean, I was too young to really remember, but for his apprenticeship, his dental apprenticeship. But the point I wanted to make is he went on a 2-year mission, Mormon mission in post-war Germany, you know, which must have been incredibly tough, you know, had to, you know, they kind of put you through a mini, like, boot camp before you go on a mission. It's just, I don't know, a couple weeks or 2 months. I don't know how long it is, but very little time to like learn a language and learn everything that you're supposed to do to fulfill this role as a missionary. He goes to post-war Germany and he's not going from door to door, knocking on doors all day. Imagine, you know, that's tough enough to do in the States. Like if you're selling something, you know, you're knocking on doors and most people are slamming the door in your face anywhere in the world. You know what I mean? If you're there selling something, you know, and this is like selling, you know, religion. So knocking on doors and people speaking a language that you probably did, and you're trying to speak, and, you know, you spent 2 years in Germany doing that where you have no contact with your family. You can't call your family. There's no Skype to your family. You're out there in another world. So the point I wanted to make is he was an adventurer, you know.
Past the good timing now, so I won't do it.
Yeah, definitely out in nature, he was. My dad, when he was, I think even in his 60s, or yeah, he was in Arizona this one place in Arizona where he lived, they had a man against horse race. That was, I think it was 50 miles. It was overnight. It's like 12 miles up one mountain, 12 miles down the other side, 12 miles up and 12 miles back down. And some people would do it by foot. Some people would do it on a horse. My stepmother would do it on a horse, and my dad would do it on foot, you know. And he loved that race, you know. But he was an old man even doing that. Yeah, my dad was a great man.
I was waiting for it.
So if you're listening to this,
Yes.
we're having these kind of conversations inside of a Facebook group called Honoring Fathers. Look for it in the comments. I invite you to join us in that Facebook group. I invite you to spend these days leading up to Father's Day, and even afterwards, if you like, having these conversations. And if you're listening to this, tell us something about your father. How you can honor your father. How you would like to remember your father. You know, maybe something you might say at his funeral, some memory. Post that in the comments.
See you there. See you tomorrow.